The house of Nakarawa is, is regarded highly in the southern kingdom of Teria. Even back then, the noble house kept a strong tie to the royal family. It continues as of now. The current king of Teria remained closely acquainted with the house of Nahara, hence presenting the good statue of the noble house. Lady Erica saw how much respect the people of the south has for her family, but even though they are regarded highly in their kingdom, to the other kingdoms, they were not much. Because after all, they are from the south. Years of war between Igneous and Terra is a past and tarnished the reputation of the southern people, and the kingdom of Terra's defeat in Igneous didn't help. When the war between the two kingdoms ended, the southern kingdom did its best to glorify their reputation. They agreed with the peace treaty. They let Igneous take control of their kingdom, and they behaved nicely. Their current king believed that it's time to end the bloodshed and focus on reforming the kingdom. But no, even now the other kingdoms will choose to look on their past and define them with it. So, when Lady Erica was handpicked by the king of Igneous, at least that's what she was told, she was erratic. For the king of Igneous to choose a mistress from the southern kingdom is something. Her parents and the other nobles think it will be a way to show the other kingdoms that not all southern people are savages, and it will be a good way to further strengthen a newfound relationship within the two kingdoms. And so Lady Erica is determined to do that. She is determined to do everything to please the king. So, when King Bakugo rejected her and told her he didn't ask for a mistress, Lady Erica was shocked and scared that this might not work. But she's glad she's still permitted to stay in Igneous, even with the king's threats of sending her back. Lady Erica held tight to the single hope, but she knew it won't be a while before the others will notice that the king is not very interested in her and will be sent back. She will not allow that. So she defined ways to secure her place in the court of Bakugo Katsuki. Now, back at her home, Lady Erica has something called a airhead, but that doesn't mean she did not notice the tension between the king and his wife. It is very clear to her that they have a difficult match, and she caught wind about the sources of the king's frustrations from one of the ladies. The reason why King Bakugo called for a mistress is because of his wife, because she denied him of any pleasure. Lady Erica found her card to get on the king's good side. "Good morning, Your Majesty." Lady Erica greeted the king as soon as she entered the private dining room. She looked at the empty seat beside him and took on the table and its empty plate. The ladies were right. His wife even refused to dine with him. He muttered under his breath. "It is a pleasant day, isn't it, Your Majesty?" she queried cheerfully, sat at the empty chair beside him. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Having breakfast with you, of course. Food is more delicious with company, Your Majesty." He clicked his tongue. "I mean, what are you still doing here? I thought I told you to go home." Lady Erica stilled for a moment. She then blinked and smiled. "Well, just like Sir Kirishima said, it would be too inconvenient for me to go back now." Bakugo let out a questioning sound before speaking. "I think it's convenient for you to go home tomorrow. You can spend the whole day packing your stuff. Now get the fuck out of my face." She frowned. "You're difficult to understand, Your Majesty." "I know," he merely said. "Before I leave, I have something to ask." Bakugo raised a brow and let out an exhausted sigh. "Hurry up so you can get your ass out of here." "Is it true that you and Her Majesty are not getting along?" "Huh? Bakugo's mouth gaped open and looked at her as if she just asked the most stupid question. Why do you care? She shrugged slightly. I just noticed, that's all. And that you've been frustrated lately, Your Majesty. Everyone's saying the same damn thing. Does it have something to do with her? Lady Erica knew she let her mouth run without thinking again, judging from the frowning eyes of the royalty. She knew she must go now, but at the same time, she's not done yet. It must be unfair for you, Your Majesty. Here you are, still bothered because Her Majesty, while she had inquired a company for herself. Earlier, Bakugo looked like he was ready to scream at her head, but now his mouth agape and eyes widened while his forehead wrinkled from confusion. What the fuck did you say? Lady Erica tilted her head. You do not know, Your Majesty? I wouldn't fucking ask if I did. This is merely an assumption of mine. I think it's better for you to ask her personally. Bakugo clicked his tongue. You tell me, woman. Well, she breathed. I saw her with Sir Midoriya yesterday. Yin stood by the window, still in her nightgown. Her mind drifted far. She cannot admire the view from her room when she is being plagued by the conflict she's currently fighting inside her head. It is clear that Midoriya has the resolution to never join the coup. She emphasized that he is loyal to the crown, but not to Bakugo. That part oddly made Yin feel a little revealed. Now she's thinking whether or not she should try and convince him again. This time Yin will put much more effort. It's either she gives in or she will be left with another rejection. Right now, she's thinking at the past. She was lacking so she could improve it and explain to successful result. Little did she know, all her efforts of pursuing a plan will come to a short for the upcoming news. Your Majesty? That same morning, Uraka came in. Usually, she would chime and would wear a pretty smile, but now she's looking out of breath, as if she had just ran a marathon, and fully perpendent expression extruded on her face. Uraka, what is it? Yin asked in concern. You will never guess what everyone's talking about this morning. Yin sighed. The court never runs out of topic about anything. She would have waved it off, not too interested at whatever the court has decided to find interest and spread a word about now, but Uraka's worried face silently disturbed Yin. Tell me. Uraka gulped and clasped her hands together, only to let her finger play with each other as a gesture of anxiety. There's a rumor about you. Uraka choked on her words and gulped again. Yin, by now, has become impatient and confused. And who? There's a rumor about you and Deku-kun, she spilled, and that you two are in a secret relationship. Yin's brows furrowed as she let those words sink in. Then her eyes widened, only to narrow again and crease her brows once more as ridiculous humor. What? That is absurd. I know, Your Majesty, Uraka cried with the king. It is so absurd. Why would they even think that? Someone saw you and him together, and they claimed that you two were so close with each other, talking so intent and leaning very closely. They claimed you two were so intimately close. Yin looked down and started to remember her conversation with Midori yesterday and how they were intently whispering that they had to lean closer. Oh my God, Yin breathed out. Suddenly, Uraka's face fell as she realization in Yin's face. Your Majesty, don't tell me it's true. Uraka shook her head. Of course not, the monarch pressed on. I tried to convince him yesterday, and he had to lean in because we're whispering, that's all. Whoever saw us merely misunderstood the situation. Oh, thank God, Uraka sighed. Yin raised her brow at her statement. Yin asked, who spread that rumor anyways? I don't know, Your Majesty. I did not get to ask. As soon as I heard the rumor, I rushed here. Yin looked down again and tried to remember the events from yesterday. Then the figure of Lady Erica by the window flashed in her mind. She sighed and ran a hand over her face. It must be her. Her? Who? The mistress, Yin answered. She saw us yesterday. Oh, dear God. Aside from that, do you think she heard your conversation? Placing your hands on your hips, Yin shook her head. No, I don't think she did. If she really did, the king would be storming in here right now to kill me. Uraka sighed once again. Yin bit her lip and started pacing back and forth. What do we do now, Your Majesty? She asked worriedly. The court is livid. They're talking about it. They've been ridiculing you. What do we do? I don't want to tarnish my reputation in the court now that I'm planning to take the throne. I need to have their approval, Yin said. A moment of pacing and mentally battling for decision. Yin then said, I must avoid Midoriya at all costs. Uraka nodded, agreeing that it was only for the situation. You might have to stop trying to get him into the coup then, Uraka reminded. And let us wait for the rumors to die down so we can approach him again. It would be too long by then. If Yin would wait, Midoriya's decision to not join the coup would only become stronger, hence it would be near impossible to get him to join. Although determined to her plan, Yin had no choice. It seems that the odds are in Midoriya's favor. Maybe he really wasn't made to join her coup. That saddened Yin, but now that it has come to this, she might be forced to look for another important ally from the court. Uraka, she called to the brunette, let's get ready for today. Yin did what she said. She took a bath, got dressed, ate, and attended her duties on the special request that everyone can deliver her duties aside from the green-haired scholar. And she regretted it when it was Mineta who came to deliver her portion of paperwork. He directly handed the parchments to her instead of placing it on the desk where Yin can immediately see what she has to work on. That's how Midori does it. Yin had sworn the great man distractedly let his hand brush against hers as he took the parchment from him. But now Yin has caught on Mineta's nature. Uraka told her once that she had been wary of him. Thank you, Court Mineta, Yin politely said, dismissing him, although she felt uneasy by his behavior. He did not explain the paperwork, like which one is needed to be urgently done, or which one requires reading and studying. Midoriya would have done that, but he wasn't Midoriya, so Yin let it pass and thanked him greatly. Yin raised a brow and Mineta did not move from his position. He remained there, grinning at her. Is there anything else? He asked. I was wondering if Her Majesty would like some help with their work, he said, and Yin blinked as he started to advance to her. If you want, I could. Uraka stopped him. Her Majesty wouldn't like to be alone and to start working now, Count Mineta. The great man glared at the brunette. Uraka was unfazed and started to lead him out. What followed was his strings of shouts and complaints about how he was superior to Uraka now and she should not touch him. Still, she let him out. Yin chuckled nervously. She thanked Uraka mentally, then looked down to start her paperwork. And all day she did nothing but that, except then she took a break to eat lunch with Uraka. But by the evening, Yin was done with her work. Now that she's no longer preoccupied, her thoughts drifted to the rumor again, and how she just lost a chance to gain a new ally in her coup. Sighing, Yin stood up and went to the library. She decided to go to the library because she remembered she forgot to get a new book when she encountered Midoriya last time. So she'll get one now. Uraka went to fetch her dinner, so she has to be quick. As soon as Yin went outside and to the hallway, she passed a lot of nobles. She saw them scrutinizing for her every move. Some of them began whispering while looking at her. Yin wished that they could be more discreet about it. Sighing internally, she plastered a smile at them. Even with their judgment, they still bowed and curtsied, to which Yin acknowledged. Soon the stairs became shifting, and she had to zone past the nobles to get to the library. There she let out a sigh. She frowned and continued to make her way to the bookshelves. She remembered where she saw an interesting book once, so her feet carried her where she recalled the book was located. When Yin turned, she was suddenly met with a face she hadn't seen for a few days. Your Majesty? Yin composed herself and curtsied. There, Bakugo stood by the bookshelf, a book in his hand as he looked at Yin with slightly widened eyes. His soft expression was soon replaced by a harsh, glaring face. You, he sneered, closing the book harshly and put it back in its shelf. Judging from his reaction upon seeing her, Yin could only guess that he had heard the rumors as well. She proceeded, it won't be long before he'll start screaming at her head, so Yin beat him to it, before he could even do so. I assume you've been well these past few days? She started. Bakugo glared intently. Huh? What the fuck are you talking about? Well, Yin started to walk past him until she got to the part of the shelf behind him. Seeing that Lady Erica is here, I expect that you went back to your usual self, as everyone had hoped. I am perfectly normal. What's with you and the other extras thinking I've gone fucking crazy or something? In case you haven't noticed, Your Majesty, you've been slacking with your work, and Kirishima has quoted to me once you've been frustrated. I told you not to call me that, he warned, pertaining to how Yin addressed him so firmly. It sounds annoying. And who the fuck said I'm slacking? Everyone. The court, your friends, and your scholar. And the paperwork I've done for you. She nonchalantly said, and I've heard that a mistress was sent for you to ease your frustrations, so I assume that you've been doing well. The paperworks are breaking my back, you know, and Midoriya had been worried for you and your work. I do hope that Lady Erica would. That damn Deku. Is he really worried about me? Are you? He cut her off. Yin admits that she was startled by the question. She hoped to distract him from it, to avoid any argument that may occur between them. I look away for a second, and now I'm hearing that you're messing around with some good-for-nothing, he continued. You're very determined on thinking ill of him, Yin furrowed. And I must enlighten you, Your Majesty, I have not been messing around with anybody, especially with Midoriya, the man who has been aiding you, and the one you should trust the most. All of a sudden, Yin felt the wind get knocked out of her as her back hit the shelves. She looked to see Bakugo towering over her with utter menace. He looks so angry, but at the same time, he looks like he's holding himself back from something. Yin even heard his clenching as one of his hands came just above your side of cage hit her. Don't fuck with me, Yin. That was the first time in a while you heard him say your name. It created the tension between them. Someone saw you with him yesterday. I was wondering where you have been these past fucking days, and now I know you've been with him. You? You've been wondering where I was? She mocked. Do not think that I don't notice that you've been dawdling, avoiding each other. And like I said, I do not have a relationship with Midoriya. It wasn't only one person who saw you with him. Others told me that you've actually been keeping an eye on Shitty Deku. And you think you can still fucking lie to me, huh? I am not lying. Do not think of me as someone who would mess around with anybody just because my own spouse treats me like dirt. I am not like you. Bakugo's eyes widened. He let out elaborate breaths of anger. He looked down and seemed to be on edge. And then he let out a crude chuckle. God damn it, that's all your fault. Yin had no idea what he was talking about. She stared at him angrily as she got offended. My fault? How is it my fault now? You've been messing with my head, you damn woman, he muttered, and Yin still has no idea what he's talking about. What kind of game are you trying to start, huh? Yen's eyes widened. She immediately thought about her coup and got scared. She was quick to cover her shock and pushed him off her. "I'm not starting anything," she said, only the statement she lied through her teeth. "And believe me when I tell you that I don't have any affairs with Midoriya. I really don't." Bakugo looked down for a while before meeting her eyes once again. Yen tensed at his gaze. "There's nothing good about it." He then looked away and clicked his tongue. Soon, she could hear his thundering footsteps fading as she walked away from her and out of the library. The door to his study made a loud slam as Bakugo opened and slammed it close. He frustratingly loosed his collar and his top and proceeded to pace back and forth. "Fuck!" Bakugo ran a hand over his face and turned to kick the table. "Fuck!" He knew that he should have left as soon as she started talking to him. He can barely control himself back there. Bakugo doesn't know whether the argument they had back there was a blessing in disguise, as his anger had overlapped with his other feelings of wanting a woman. It didn't help that Yin was the one who left him hanging, and the reason why he's all percanated of whether giving into temptation to satisfy his needs is better or to let his pride delude him, and he does not need someone to satisfy him. Flashes of his dreams about the woman he found irritating, his wife, appeared in his mind. Bakugo stopped pacing and sat down on the chair behind the desk. He looked up, closed his eyes, then pursed his nose and let out a long breath to calm himself. Maybe Kaminari was right about him. He realized his friend was right, but before refused to acknowledge it, his pride still swooning. But how long can Bakugo subside in denying his needs as a man? Because right now he admits his feelings a bit tired from suppressing it anymore. It's tiring both in physical and mind. Now that his anger and cooled down a little, tiredness followed. "What's troubling you?" He jumped in his seat and looked around for the source of the voice. There in the corner of his study was a person hiding in the shadow. Standing up, Bakugo was ready to activate his quirk and blow up whatever dared to trespass his study. But then the person emerged from the shadows, and it was revealed to be Lady Erica. She stood with worried exhaustion on her face as she hugged the thin white robe covering her body. His current state, the first thing that Bakugo noticed were the thin layers that barely preserved her modesty. "Your Majesty?" she asked again. "What the? It's just you," he said, and settled back down in his seat. No shouting, no scolding as to why Lady Erica was in his study in the first place. He gave away all his anger to the argument earlier. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, that I went in here without your permission," she said. "It's just that I can't help but admire all these things." Lady Erica turned and beckoned to something. Bakugo followed the distressed, but soon got surprised when she was pertaining to a portrait of Bakugo's late father and the ordnance of his father's owned. They are from the south," she smiled, and Bakugo wasn't too keen that she interrupted him. "I know Prince Matsuru. I heard great things about him." "You're from the south," he stated. Lady Erica nodded and went closer to his desk. "That's right. The same place your father was born." Bakugo remained quiet and tried to distract himself by remembering his father, but it remained insignificant as his wife continued to plague his mind, and now there's a thinly dressed woman in front of him. "He was a hero to us. Because of him, peace was brought upon the two kingdoms. Upon his marriage to Queen Mitsuki," she continued. "These remains must have been his, right? I recognize it because of the patterns used from my home." Bakugo sighed and couldn't believe that he's letting her rant in front of him when he could just send her home. What's stopping him from doing that? He doesn't know. Lady Erica then asked, "I heard you grew up in the south too, Your Majesty? That your mother sent you there with your father?" "Yeah, what about it?" "Nothing. I'm just glad to learn that we grew up in the same place. Bakugo sighed and composed himself once again. There was a pause for Lady Erica, and spoke again. And I want to be like him, too. Like your father. Bakugo's ears perked up and raised a brow. What the hell are you talking about? All of a sudden she turned to him with such favor in her eyes. I want to let you know, your majesty, that I came here to resolve to serve you, as I was called to do that, even if I'm just a mistress. Lady Erica started. I wish to build a good relationship between the kingdoms I came from and the kingdom you rule, even if that means I have to give my person to you. As long as I get to build a good relationship with you, it will be my first step to my goal. Bakugo's eyes widened as the woman in front of him removed the robe wrapping around her body. What remained was her nightgown. And I also wish to reveal you from your frustrations, Lady Erica said in a soft voice. Give me a chance. Give me a chance, and I will prove to you that I can fulfill your needs. Bakugo didn't say anything. He froze when she removed the remaining piece of cloth covering her body. Lady Erica stood before the royalty, enticing him more. You don't have to control yourself. She slurred and walked closer. Katsuki. Bakugo remained the night after he cased in, and now she pulled him to her, and immediately the intimacy that happened between them. Then he remembered his dreams, the dreams that kept bothering him till this day. He remembered how he meant to avoid her and how he acted so out of character because she left him hanging. All that made Bakugo realize was in dire need of pleasure. Before he even knew it, he found himself saying, Come here.